Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never even imagined they could hurt you? Now, imagine this. You wake up one morning, open your banking app, and the number staring back at you isn't just wrong. It's a nightmare. Not a small error, not a missing paycheck, but all of it. All your savings. Everything you worked for years, gone. At first, you tell yourself it's a glitch. Maybe the bank app crashed. Maybe you typed the wrong password and the screen isn't loading right. But no, the number doesn't change. And that strange rising heat in your chest, that's not confusion anymore. That's fear. Now imagine realizing that the people who emptied that account weren't hackers, weren't strangers. They were your own parents. Not only did they take your life savings, they used it to rescue someone else's disaster. Someone who never lifted a finger to help you. Someone who always got a free pass. Someone who believed your life existed to support his mistakes. Your brother. And the worst part? They didn't ask. They didn't warn you. They didn't even hesitate. They sat in a bank office, signed your name on documents they never showed you, backed his failing business loan using your hard-earned money, and walked out believing they would never have to tell you. Because to them, your savings didn't belong to you. They belonged to the family. And the family meant your brother. This is the moment Audrey's life split into before and after. Before, she believed loyalty was a two-way street. Before, she believed her parents saw her as more than a backup plan, more than the responsible child they could always depend on. Before, she believed love came with respect. But after, everything she believed shattered. Because how do you even begin to understand a betrayal that deep? How do you breathe when the very foundation you trusted suddenly collapses beneath you? You know what hurts the most? It wasn't the money. It was the realization that the people who taught her right from wrong didn't think twice about doing her wrong. That the people who preached honesty used secrecy like a weapon. That the people who raised her to be responsible rewarded irresponsibility instead. And Audrey didn't just lose money that day. She lost the version of herself that trusted too easily. But here's where the story becomes something far more powerful. Something you won't expect. Because Audrey didn't explode. She didn't scream. She didn't threaten anyone. She didn't even cry in front of them. No. She did something her family never imagined. She took control. She pulled herself out of the emotional wreckage, rebuilt her strength, and created a path not just toward justice, but toward healing, on her terms. And by the end of this story, you will see a transformation so profound, so unexpected, that it will change how you think about trust, boundaries, and family. Because this isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a story of rebirth, of discovering what you truly deserve, and of finally saying no in a world that always expected you to say yes. And the final twist? Let's just say, the consequences for her parents and brother were nothing like what they expected. Before we dive into the events that led to this moment, take a breath. Because what you're about to hear is not just a tale of financial betrayal. It's a lesson in how easily love can turn into entitlement, how quickly responsibility can become exploitation, and how courage can still rise from the deepest hurt. And trust me, once you hear what they did next and how Audrey responded, you'll understand why this story has left millions speechless. Before we step into the confrontation, before the discovery, before the unraveling of trust that held Audrey's life together, you need to understand who Audrey was before everything fell apart, because betrayal never hits as hard when it comes from people you expect it from. The deepest cuts always come from the hands we trust the most. And if you stay with this story until the end, and you absolutely should, you're going to witness one of the most unexpected, heartbreaking, and strangely empowering journeys a person can experience. You're going to see how her parents quietly planned everything behind her back, how her brother manipulated the situation for his gain, how Audrey pieced the truth together one horrifying detail at a time, and the exact moment her entire world flipped upside down. But you're also going to see something her family never predicted. Audrey's strength, not loud strength. Not dramatic movie-style courage, but the kind of quiet, steady, unshakable strength that only appears when someone has finally had enough. By the end of this story, you'll understand why millions of people around the world couldn't stop talking about Audrey's response. Because she didn't burn bridges. She didn't destroy her family. She didn't seek revenge out of hate. Her revenge came from clarity, from knowing she deserved better, from understanding exactly how to hold people accountable, even when those people share your blood. And trust me, the ending will stay with you. But first, let me take you back. Long before the savings disappeared. Long before the betrayal. Long before the truth shattered everything she believed about family. Let me take you to the beginning. To the part of her story where everything seemed normal. Almost perfect. Audrey's early life, the making of a responsible child. Audrey grew up in a small, quiet household, the kind where the neighbors smiled, where birthdays were celebrated modestly, where every winter her mother baked the same cinnamon cookies because tradition matters. Her father worked long hours. Her mother managed the home. And Audrey did what she always did best. She listened. She obeyed. She learned. From a young age, she was the kind of child parents bragged about. Straight A's, never got in trouble, always helped with chores, always cleaned up after herself. But perhaps the biggest lesson drilled into her, over and over, was this. Be responsible, Audrey. Be the one we can depend on. And she was. Too much, maybe. Because while Audrey was being responsible, someone else was learning something very different. The brother, the golden child, Ethan. Audrey's older brother by 3 years. Charming smile, big dreams, and absolutely no follow-through. He was the kind of kid who did things because they were exciting, not because they were necessary. He bounced between hobbies, schools, friends, jobs, relationships. Everything in his life had a beginning, but almost nothing had an ending. And every time he messed up, every time he lost something, a job, a girlfriend, a second chance, their parents said the same thing. Ethan just needs support right now. He's going through a phase. Boys take longer to mature. And every time Ethan failed, their parents turned to Audrey. Not for help, but for stability. She was the backup plan, the dependable one. The quiet child who never asked for anything, never complained, never made demands. And in families like this, something subtle and dangerous begins to grow. Entitlement. Ethan started believing the world owed him more, that someone would always catch him, that consequences didn't apply to him the same way they did to others, and most tragically, their parents encouraged it, not intentionally, not maliciously, just blindly. They believed in family loyalty. But what they really meant was, Audrey will always fix what Ethan breaks. Audrey's first job, the seed of her savings. At 16, Audrey got her first job. Not because she needed the money, but because she liked the idea of earning her own way. She worked evenings at a small cafe, wiping tables, running orders, taking payments, learning how to smile even when customers were rude. Her parents were proud. At first. But then they started saying things like, "Don't stress too much, Audrey. You don't have to work this hard." Yet when Ethan needed money for car repairs, they turned to Audrey. When Ethan needed new clothes for a job interview, they turned to Audrey. When Ethan's cell service accidentally got cut off because he forgot to pay his bill again, they turned to Audrey. She gave, and gave, and gave, never asking for anything back. Not because she didn't care, but because she genuinely believed she was helping her family. And that's the part that hurts the most later. The savings grow, and so does the resentment. By the time Audrey reached her early 20s, her savings had grown significantly. She was disciplined. She lived below her means. She saved every bonus, every tax refund, every extra shift. Her dream wasn't extravagant. She wanted her own place someday, a small apartment with sunlight and plants and peace. Her parents knew about her savings. Ethan knew too. And quietly, something ugly began to form. A belief, a justification, a story her parents told themselves. It's just money. Family helps each other. Audrey understands. But there was another belief they never said out loud. Ethan needs it more than she does. And that belief, that tiny, toxic seed, would soon grow into the betrayal that changed her life. The foreshadowing, small things that didn't seem important. Looking back, Audrey would later realize there were signs. Little things. Mom whispering on the phone more than usual. Dad hiding envelopes in drawers. Ethan avoiding eye contact whenever money was mentioned. Her parents asking strange questions about her bank, her job, her financial comfort. Even the way her brother reacted when she mentioned wanting to buy a place. A flicker of annoyance, a hint of jealousy, a sense of entitlement so deep, he didn't even bother hiding it. But at the time, Audrey missed the signs. Because when you love people, you rarely expect them to be planning something behind your back. Audrey sat on the edge of her bed, the numbers repeating in her mind like a siren she couldn't silence. $87,000. Her money, her future, her safety net. Gone, signed away without her knowledge, without her consent, without even a conversation. She tried to piece together every possible explanation, every possible justification, but none of them made sense. None of them matched the people she thought her parents were. Her mom's pleading face flashed through her mind. Honey, please, calm down. Her dad's rigid jaw. We did what we had to do. And her brother's refusal to even look her in the eye. It felt unreal, like she had stepped into someone else's nightmare. Audrey grabbed her phone with trembling hands and opened her banking app again, hoping, praying that somehow the numbers would look different. But they didn't. The account she'd been building since she was 18. Every bonus, every freelance check, every dollar she'd saved by skipping vacations and cooking cheap meals sat nearly empty. A hollow ache spread across her chest, because it wasn't just the money. It was what the money represented. Security, independence, her chance to move out, her plans for grad school, everything she had lined up for her future. Her phone buzzed suddenly, nearly making her drop it. It was a message from her best friend, Naomi. You okay? You left earlier. Audrey hesitated. She didn't even know how to explain something like this. How do you put betrayal into words? How do you tell someone your own family robbed you? She typed, "Can you talk?" And almost immediately, Naomi called. Audrey tried to speak, but all that came out was a choked breath. Naomi didn't push. She just waited. She always did. Finally, Audrey whispered, "My parents used my savings." Naomi was silent for a full second. Then, used? Like, borrowed? Or, no. They backed my brother's loan with it. Without telling me. Audrey swallowed hard. 87,000, Nye. The line went dead silent. Then Naomi exhaled sharply. Are you kidding me? Audrey, no, that's insane. They can't do that. They can't just take your money. That's illegal. Hearing someone else say the word made the truth feel even sharper. Illegal. Her parents had done something illegal to her. Their own daughter. It's like they don't even see me as a person, Audrey whispered. Just a backup plan. A safety net. A resource. Naomi didn't sugarcoat things. She never did. Audrey, you need to get out of that house. Audrey closed her eyes. She knew. She knew Naomi was right. But right now, she felt trapped. Emotionally, physically, financially. I have nowhere to go. Yes, you do, Naomi said firmly. I have a spare room. You can stay here as long as you need. A lump formed in Audrey's throat, gratitude mixed with heartbreak. Thanks, but I don't even know what to do first. I don't know how to even face them. You don't have to, Naomi replied. Not alone. Audrey took a shaky breath. Before she could respond, the door creaked open. Her mom stood in the hallway, eyes red, hands clasped nervously. Honey, can we talk? Audrey stiffened. Naomi heard it. Do you want me to stay on call? Audrey hesitated. Yes, she whispered softly. Stay. She didn't put the phone on speaker, but she held it close. Her mom stepped inside slowly, as if afraid Audrey might run. I know you're angry, her mom began, and you have every right to be. But please understand, we didn't do this to hurt you. Audrey stared at her blankly. Her mother continued, voice quivering. Your brother needed help. His business. It was everything to him. He put his whole soul into it. And I put my entire life into that savings, Audrey replied quietly. Why didn't anyone think about that? We did. We do, but he's your brother. We had to protect him. No, Audrey said firmly, her voice trembling but strong. You chose him. You didn't protect me. You sacrificed me. Her mom's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was a family decision. Audrey's jaw clenched. A family decision requires everyone in the family, and I wasn't even asked. Her mom looked away. Audrey continued. Why didn't you use your own accounts? Your retirement? Your savings? At that, her mom fell silent. Audrey already knew the answer. They didn't want to risk their own financial security. They risked hers instead. Her mom whispered, We thought, you're young. You have time. You can rebuild. Audrey laughed. A short, bitter sound. So because I'm responsible, I get punished? Because I saved? I get robbed? Her mom flinched. Audrey, please, you know your brother. He wouldn't survive jail. He's not built for it. The words hit Audrey like a slap. So you would rather put me in a position where I might not survive financially? She asked quietly. Is that what I'm built for? Her mom reached out instinctively, but Audrey stepped back. I'm trying, honey, her mom whispered. I'm trying to make you understand. No, Audrey said coldly. You're trying to justify it. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Then her mom said something that made everything worse. Audrey, we need you to keep this quiet. Audrey's breath caught. Her mom rushed on. If people find out, if the bank finds out, your father could get in trouble. Your brother could face consequences. We could lose everything. You don't want that, do you? Audrey felt her entire body go numb. This wasn't guilt anymore. This was manipulation. This was pressure. This was asking her to protect the very people who hurt her. Before Audrey could respond, Naomi's voice crackled softly through the phone. Audrey, you don't owe them silence. Her mom froze when she heard the voice, realizing Audrey wasn't alone. Audrey finally spoke, voice low but steady. I'm not covering for anyone. Not anymore. Her mom's face crumbled. Audrey, please. No, Audrey said firmly. You don't get to ask me for anything. She walked to the door and opened it wide. Please leave. Her mom stood still for a long moment, tears streaming down her face before finally stepping out. As soon as the door closed, Audrey collapsed onto her bed, the weight of everything crashing over her. Naomi's voice whispered from the phone, steady and grounding. Audrey, you're strong, stronger than any of them expected. And you're not alone. We'll figure this out, step by step. Audrey nodded, wiping her eyes. For the first time since the nightmare began, she felt a flicker of clarity, a flicker of control, and she wasn't going to let anyone take that away again. The next morning, Audrey woke up with a heaviness in her chest, but also with a sense of direction. The kind you get when you finally accept the truth you were trying so hard to avoid. Her family had crossed a line. Not a small line, not a disagreement, not a misunderstanding, but a line that could never be uncrossed. And now she needed answers. Real answers. Not emotional excuses, not guilt, not manipulation. She needed the truth in writing. Audrey got out of bed, grabbed her laptop, and began searching for something she never thought she would need. What to do if your parents used your savings without permission? The results made her stomach twist. Financial fraud, unauthorized access, misuse of funds, breach of trust, illegal transactions. Her hands shook slightly as she scrolled through article after article, forum after forum, realizing this kind of situation happened more often than she ever imagined. But each story ended the same way. If you don't protect yourself, no one else will. A new message popped up on her screen. Naomi again. I'm outside. Pack whatever you need. Audrey blinked, surprised. She hadn't asked her to come, but Naomi always knew what she needed before she said it. Audrey grabbed a small duffel bag. She didn't take much, just essentials. Clothes, toiletries, her laptop, documents, and the one sentimental item she couldn't leave behind. A framed photo of her younger self at her first job, holding her first paycheck with pride. The girl in that photo had no idea what her own family would one day do to her. She zipped the bag shut. When Audrey walked downstairs, the tension in the house was thick enough to choke on. Her dad sat at the kitchen table reading a newspaper he clearly wasn't actually reading. Her mom hovered by the counter, wiping the same clean surface again and again. And her brother, Daniel, leaned against the wall with crossed arms, looking irritated, defensive, and remarkably unapologetic. He spoke first. So you're really blowing this out of proportion? Audrey stopped mid-step. Her jaw clenched slowly. Daniel scoffed. It's not like we spent your money. It's just collateral. Chill. Audrey stared at him, a cold quietness settling inside her. Do you even understand what that means? She asked. If you default again, if your business fails, my money goes to the bank. Not yours, not theirs, mine. Daniel shrugged. Why are you acting like you're poor? You'll make it back. Her father finally spoke up, voice low and controlled. Audrey, sit. Let's have a mature conversation. She didn't move. Her dad folded the newspaper. Running away isn't the answer. I'm not running, Audrey said. I'm protecting myself. Her mom stepped forward nervously. Honey, please don't leave. People will start asking questions. Your relatives will wonder why you're suddenly staying somewhere else. What do you want us to tell them? Audrey looked at her mother with a slow, bitter smile. Tell them the truth. Her mom's face paled. Daniel scoffed. So now you're threatening us? Audrey turned to him sharply. I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you what's going to happen if you keep talking to me like that. He rolled his eyes. You're making this a way bigger deal than it is. No, Audrey replied quietly. You just refuse to understand the gravity of what you did. Her father stood up, towering over her, but Audrey didn't flinch. You will not walk out of this house angry, he said firmly. We are a family. Families handle things privately. Audrey took a step closer, staring straight into her father's eyes. You handled things privately when you stole from me, she said. Now I handle things privately by leaving. Her father's jaw tightened. Don't use that word. Which one? Audrey asked. Stole? He pointed a finger at her. You're being dramatic. Audrey let out a short breath. She wasn't crying anymore. She wasn't begging. She wasn't pleading for them to understand. She was done. I talked to someone, Audrey said calmly. A financial advisor. Her parents froze. Her mother whispered, Audrey, what did you do? Nothing yet, Audrey replied, voice steady. But I know my rights, and I know what you did is illegal. The bank can get involved, and so can the police. Her father's face went red. Are you threatening to destroy our family? No, Audrey said. I'm trying to save myself from the damage you already caused. Silence swallowed the room. Finally, her mother stepped forward, tears streaming. Honey, please don't do this. Don't make this harder than it already is. Audrey looked at her for a long moment. Then she said softly, "You already made it hard. I'm just choosing not to let it break me." She walked past them, every step feeling heavier than the last. Her mom's voice cracked behind her. "Audrey, please come back, please." Her father called out, "You're being irresponsible." Daniel muttered, "Drama queen." But Audrey didn't turn back. When she stepped outside, she saw Naomi leaning against her car, arms crossed, gaze strong and supportive. "Ready?" Naomi asked. Audrey nodded. "More than ever." As they drove away, Audrey felt both pain and relief. Pain because walking away from family never feels natural. Relief because, for the first time, she was truly choosing herself. She stared out the window, watching the house get smaller and smaller behind her. The place she grew up in, the place she trusted, the place that betrayed her. The farther they got, the easier it became to breathe. Naomi glanced at her. "You did the right thing." Audrey nodded slowly. "Now, I need to figure out what comes next." Naomi smirked. "Then let's make a plan." Audrey inhaled deeply, gathering her thoughts. She wasn't just hurt anymore. She wasn't just betrayed. She was motivated, determined, and ready. Whatever came next, her family wouldn't see it coming. Naomi drove with one hand on the wheel and the other holding a travel mug of coffee. Black, no sugar, the way she always drank it when she was in strategic mode. Audrey sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, her thoughts swirling like a storm she could no longer keep inside. Finally, Naomi spoke. "Okay, start from the beginning. Tell me exactly what happened. Every detail. Don't leave anything out." Audrey took a slow breath, then started explaining. The discovery, the missing savings, the confrontation, her family's reactions, the guilt tripping, the excuses. Naomi didn't interrupt once, not even to ask a question. She just listened, jaw tightening with every sentence. When Audrey finished, Naomi let out a long exhale. "Wow." "Yeah," Audrey whispered. Naomi shook her head. "They didn't just cross a line. They obliterated it." Audrey let out a small laugh. "I know." "No, seriously," Naomi said. "People get sued for less. You do realize that, right?" Audrey looked down at her hands. "I know, but it's my family." Naomi turned slightly toward her. "And you're human, not a walking ATM." Audrey pressed her lips together, feeling emotions she had tried to suppress all morning. Anger, disappointment, confusion, hurt. Naomi continued. "Okay, first things first. We need to stabilize you financially. You said your savings account is empty?" Audrey nodded weakly. "All right. And do you have any other accounts? Emergency funds? Investments? Side savings?" Another shake of her head. "So basically," Naomi summarized, "they didn't just use your money, they wiped you clean." Audrey closed her eyes, letting the truth sink in again. "Yeah." Naomi's voice softened a little. "Okay, then here's what we're going to do." She pulled into a quiet coffee shop parking lot, the kind of place where the air always smelled like fresh pastries and roasted beans. They got out and found a table in the corner, away from noise, away from distractions. Naomi pulled out her tablet and tapped the screen rapidly. "Step 1, she said. "Freeze your accounts, every last one of them. Change passwords, set new security questions, enable multi-factor authentication." Audrey blinked. "Is that really necessary?" Naomi lifted an eyebrow. "They already had access once. I'm not giving them a chance to do it again. We're locking everything down." Audrey nodded slowly. "Step 2, Naomi continued. "You're opening a new account, at a different bank, under strict privacy settings, something your family can't track, guess, or accidentally access." Audrey swallowed. "Okay. Step 3, Naomi said. "We figure out the loan situation. But for that, we need to read the paperwork. What exactly did your parents sign?" Audrey stiffened. I I don't know. Naomi stared at her. You didn't see the contract? No, Audrey admitted. I didn't even know they used my account until yesterday. Naomi leaned back, eyes wide in disbelief. They used your money without permission and didn't even tell you what they signed it on? That's not all. Audrey said quietly. They forged my signature. Naomi froze. She didn't speak for several seconds. Finally, she leaned forward, voice low, controlled. Audrey, that's not just betrayal. That's criminal. The word hit Audrey hard. Criminal. Her parents, her brother, her family, criminal actions. She felt a lump forming in her throat. I know, Audrey whispered. But what am I supposed to do? Call the cops on my mom and dad? Naomi didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at Audrey with a deep seriousness. You're not calling the cops on your parents. You're protecting yourself from people who committed a crime against you, who happen to be your parents. Audrey looked away. Naomi softened slightly. I get it. It's family. It's complicated. But you have to stop thinking about what's comfortable and start thinking about what's safe. Audrey nodded faintly. Step 4, Naomi continued. We gather evidence, bank statements, emails, messages, anything that proves you didn't authorize this. Audrey nodded again. And step 5, Naomi added. We decide how far you're willing to go. Audrey looked up. What does that mean? Naomi folded her hands and looked her straight in the eye. It means you have 3 paths. Audrey leaned in, listening. Path 1, Naomi said. Forgive quietly. Let it go. Pretend it never happened. Audrey's stomach twisted. She already knew she could never choose that. Path 2, Naomi continued. Confront them with legal facts. Demand they fix it. Stay firm. Give them a deadline. Audrey exhaled slowly. That sounded like her. And path 3, Naomi finished. Take full legal action. Police report, fraud claim, identity theft filing, and let the law handle the rest. Audrey froze. Naomi watched her, letting the weight of those options sink in. Finally, Audrey spoke, voice trembling but controlled. I don't want to destroy my family. Naomi nodded. I know. But, Audrey added quietly, I won't let them destroy me either. Naomi smiled at that. Proud, supportive, fierce. That, she said, is the version of you we need right now. Audrey looked down at the table, processing everything. For years, she had been the quiet daughter, the agreeable one, the one who never caused trouble, the one who always forgave, always understood, always compromised. But now, she didn't want to be quiet. She didn't want to be agreeable. She didn't want to be taken advantage of ever again. She wanted justice. She wanted accountability. She wanted her life back. Naomi reached out and squeezed her hand. You're not alone in this, she said. We'll figure it out. Together. Audrey nodded, a spark of strength igniting inside her. But before she could say anything, Naomi asked, By the way, does your brother know you left? Audrey let out a humorless laugh. Oh, he knows. Well, Naomi said, opening her tablet again. Then he's about to know something else. Audrey tilted her head. What? Naomi grinned. That you're not coming back quietly. Audrey and Naomi spent the next hour organizing every step of the plan. For the first time since everything happened, Audrey felt like she wasn't drowning anymore. She had direction. She had support. She had control. Something her family had taken from her the moment they touched her savings. But now, she was taking it back. After they finished their coffees, Naomi leaned forward with a serious but strangely excited expression. All right, she said. Now that you've secured your accounts, it's time for the next step. Audrey looked up. Which is? Naomi smiled slowly. Taking back the narrative. Audrey frowned. What do you mean? Naomi tapped the table lightly. Right now, your family thinks you're emotional, impulsive, acting out of anger. They think you'll cool down and crawl back because you always do. Audrey felt a sting of recognition. She had always been the peacekeeper, the one who apologized first, the one who bent her boundaries to keep everyone else comfortable. Naomi continued, They think you're predictable, and predictable people are easy to manipulate. Audrey swallowed. Yeah, that sounds about right. So we're going to give them something they didn't expect, Naomi said. You're going to be calm, rational, strategic, and very, very firm. Audrey raised an eyebrow. Firm how? Naomi pulled out her phone and tilted it toward her. By sending a message. Audrey blinked. A message? A very specific message, Naomi said. Not angry, not emotional, not reactive, just factual. Professional. Controlled. She slid the phone across the table. Here, I drafted it for you. Audrey picked up the phone and read the text. I've taken time to process everything. I'm currently staying with a friend while I review the situation with a financial advisor. Please do not contact me regarding anything other than written details of the loan contract and the bank documents that involve my name. I will not have any verbal conversations about this matter. Send the paperwork by 7 p.m. today. Audrey's breath caught. That's cold. No, Naomi corrected. That's boundaries. Audrey hesitated. It sounds like I'm threatening them. You're not threatening them, Naomi said evenly. You're holding them accountable. There's a difference. But won't they panic? Good, Naomi said. They should panic. They crossed a line. They need to understand this isn't something you're going to just get over. Audrey stared at the message again. It didn't sound like her. Not the version of her they'd always known. And maybe that was exactly the point. She inhaled deeply. Okay, Audrey said quietly. I'll send it. Her thumb hovered over the screen for a moment. Then she pressed send. Just like that. No going back. Within seconds, the group chat lit up. First, her mother. Audrey, honey, please call me. We can fix this as a family. Then her father. We told you we'd talk tonight. There's no need for this. Then Daniel. Seriously? A financial advisor? Are you trying to get us arrested? Naomi snorted. Wow, he jumped straight to prison. Interesting guilt. Audrey stared at the messages, her chest tightening. They're all avoiding the actual issue, she said softly. Of course they are, Naomi replied. People avoid what they're guilty of. More messages came in. Her mom again. Don't drag strangers into this. It's embarrassing. Her father. This is a private family matter. We don't need outsiders knowing our business. And then Daniel. You're making Dad look like a criminal, and it's not even his fault. Naomi rolled her eyes so hard Audrey heard the motion. Classic. Deflect, minimize, guilt trip. Audrey bit her lip, suddenly fighting the urge to respond emotionally. But Naomi put a hand on her wrist. Don't reply, she said. Not yet. Why? Audrey whispered. Because they're trying to pull you back into the emotional arena, Naomi said. And you don't fight emotional manipulation with emotions. You fight it with silence and structure. Audrey nodded, feeling a strange mixture of empowerment and dread. Silence. Structure. Control. She could do that. A few minutes passed. Then her father sent another message. If you wanted to ask questions, you could have just talked to us like a mature adult instead of running away. Audrey felt the sting again. Naomi took one look at her expression and sighed. Okay, let's break down what your dad just did. Audrey looked up. First, Naomi said, he reframed your boundary as immaturity. Second, he called your leaving running away, which implies cowardice. Third, he blamed you for the situation. Audrey blinked slowly. I didn't even catch all that. That's because you grew up in it, Naomi said. You normalized the way they speak to you. Audrey's throat tightened. She hadn't expected this moment, this painful clarity. Naomi leaned forward, voice calm and steady. "You're doing everything right," she said. "They're reacting exactly how people react when their control is threatened." Audrey released a shaky breath. "Okay," she whispered. "What now?" Naomi smirked slightly. "Now," she said. "We wait for the panic to evolve." "Evolve?" Audrey asked. "Oh yeah," Naomi replied. "They're still in stage 1. "What's stage 2? Naomi smiled. "Desperation." Audrey stared at her for a moment, feeling the weight of those words settle into her bones. Desperation. Her family wasn't there yet, but they would be. Because for the first time in her life, Audrey wasn't bending. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't giving them the easy way out, and they didn't know what to do with that. Naomi closed her tablet and stood up. "Come on," she said. "Let's get you settled. The real war hasn't even started yet." Audrey stood slowly, a mix of fear and strength pulling at her chest. "What do you mean?" she asked. Naomi held the door open and gave her a steady look. "Your family thought they knew you," she said. "But the version of you that's waking up right now, they've never met her." Audrey spent the next few days carefully organizing her life. Every transaction, every statement, every piece of correspondence was cataloged. She even started keeping a private journal, detailed notes on every interaction, every suspicious movement, every lie her family had whispered. It was exhausting, but there was something liberating in documenting everything, something almost therapeutic. Naomi checked in constantly, sometimes gently pushing, sometimes firmly guiding. "You need to stay calm," she said one evening while they reviewed documents together. "Don't let emotions dictate actions. Right now we're building a shield, not starting a battle." Audrey nodded, biting the inside of her cheek. She had been ruled by emotions before. Never again. The first revelation. Then came the first revelation, a phone call from the bank. Audrey picked up with a steady voice. "Yes?" "Hi, Ms. Richards," said the representative, polite but clipped. "I'm calling about the recent activity on your savings account." Audrey held her breath. "We noticed a large transfer authorized by your parents. Can you confirm that you gave consent?" She felt a strange mix of relief and anger. "Yes," she said carefully. "I did not authorize it." There was a pause. "Understood. In that case, we will place a hold on all further transactions and initiate an investigation. Please provide any documentation you have." Audrey exhaled. "This is it," she whispered to Naomi. "This is how it starts." Naomi gave a subtle nod. "Yes, now they'll see consequences." Revealing the truth to her brother. Next came Daniel. Audrey knew this was unavoidable. He was not only the direct beneficiary of the betrayal, he had actively manipulated her parents' decisions. She sent him a single text. "We need to talk about the loan. Alone." Daniel replied almost instantly. "Sure, come home, let's discuss." Audrey hesitated, her heart pounding. She didn't want to face him in their old home. She wanted control, distance, power, and she had it. Instead, she chose neutral ground, a small cafe downtown where she could watch exits and manage the situation. Daniel arrived early as usual, coffee in hand, smug grin plastered across his face. "Hey," he said casually. "You look serious." Audrey didn't respond immediately. She studied him. His tone, his body language, his smug expression. She noticed the subtle twitch in his jaw, the slight stiffness in his shoulders, and a flicker of unease behind his eyes. "Daniel," Audrey said finally, voice calm, controlled, steady. "I need to talk to you about the loan my parents used my savings to back." He froze. "I don't—" "What are you talking about?" he asked. Audrey leaned forward slightly. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. My $87,000. Used for your failed business loan. Without my knowledge. Without consent. without even telling me. Daniel chuckled nervously. You're overreacting. It's family. It's nothing personal. Audrey's eyes narrowed. It is personal, and it's criminal. You need to understand that. Daniel's grin faltered. You're serious? You're threatening me? I'm not threatening, Audrey said. I'm holding you accountable, and I'm making it very clear that I will not let this go quietly. He shifted uncomfortably in his chair. I didn't sign anything. Dad did it. Mom did it. You know that. Audrey's fingers tapped lightly on the table, deliberate and controlled. Yes. And you benefited from it. And you actively encouraged them. That makes you complicit. Daniel's face turned red. He looked around, suddenly aware of the public space, the witnesses, the accountability. Audrey continued, voice even, unyielding. I've contacted the bank. There's an investigation underway. And I'm gathering all documentation. Every text, every email, every transaction. You will have to answer for your role. Daniel opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. His smug facade had cracked. For the first time, he was confronted with the reality that Audrey was not his backup anymore. She leaned back, letting the silence stretch. Then she stood, calm, collected. I don't want to destroy you, she said quietly, almost compassionately. But I will protect myself. And I will make sure this never happens to me, or anyone else again. She walked out of the cafe without another word. Daniel sat frozen, watching her leave, finally understanding that the girl he had always underestimated had changed. She wasn't the quiet sister anymore. She wasn't the one who would forgive and forget. Audrey had found her voice, her boundaries, her strength, and nothing would ever take it away again. Audrey returned to Naomi's apartment with a renewed sense of purpose. She was still shaken, yes, but for the first time in days, she felt like she was in control. Okay, Naomi said, closing her laptop after a long review of Audrey's documents. Step 1 complete. Bank involved. Step 2 complete. Evidence collected. Step 3? She paused, looking directly at Audrey. Step 3 is about your parents. Audrey's stomach tightened. I'm ready, she whispered. Naomi nodded. You need to decide how far you're willing to go. Confrontation? Legal action? Both. Audrey exhaled slowly, thoughts racing. I want accountability, she said finally. But I also want them to understand, not just be punished. Naomi leaned back approvingly. That's smart. Revenge isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about clarity, letting them see the consequences of their actions. Audrey opened her laptop again, drafting an email. Professional, clear, cold, no emotion, no guilt, no pleading, just facts, evidence, and a demand for resolution. When she finished, she paused. Her finger hovered over send. Then she glanced at Naomi. Do you think they'll respond? They'll respond, Naomi said with a confident smirk. And when they do, you'll handle it calmly, strategically. Every time they try to manipulate you, you stay grounded. They don't get to pull you back into emotional chaos. Audrey nodded slowly, feeling the power of those words sink in. Her parents had tried to control her, to manipulate her, to guilt her. Now she would control the narrative. The next 24 hours were excruciating. Audrey barely slept. Every buzz of her phone made her heart skip a beat. Every email notification felt like a possible confrontation. But Naomi reminded her, patience is part of the strategy. They've crossed a line. They'll act impulsively. Let them. You'll be ready. And they did. First came her mother, a long, rambling email full of guilt, excuses, and pleas for forgiveness. Audrey read it carefully, highlighting the portions that contradicted facts. She didn't respond immediately. Then her father, a terse message demanding a phone call. Audrey ignored it. Naomi reminded her. No verbal conversations, stick to facts. Finally, Daniel. A desperate text. Audrey, this is getting out of hand. Please, let's talk like a family. Don't involve outsiders. Audrey smirked faintly. Outsiders. Yes, the bank. The legal advisor. Naomi. All the people her family had ignored when they stole from her. Now they were part of the shield protecting her. Audrey typed a final email, her fingers steady, her mind clear. I have reviewed all documentation. I expect a full accounting of all actions involving my savings within 48 hours. All communications from this point forward must be in writing. I will not engage in verbal discussions regarding this matter. Failure to comply will leave me no choice but to pursue legal action. This is not negotiable. She hit send. And for the first time, Audrey felt a weight lift off her shoulders. No screaming, no crying, no pleading, just clarity, just control. Her parents had tried to take her savings. Her brother had tried to manipulate her. But now? Now she had the power. Naomi grinned. You just went full Audrey. The one they've never met before. Audrey leaned back in her chair, allowing herself a small, genuine smile. The girl who had been quiet, compliant, and forgiving was gone. She had been replaced by someone stronger, smarter, and unafraid, someone who knew her worth. And she wasn't looking back. Mid-video subscribe call. Audrey turned to Naomi. Hey, if you want to see how I navigate this next part, step by step, handling every trap they throw at me, make sure you hit subscribe. Because things are about to get intense and you won't want to miss a single moment. Naomi laughed softly. Yeah, trust me, the drama is just beginning. Audrey took a deep breath, mentally preparing for the next stage, the confrontation, the exposure, the resolution. And she knew one thing for certain. This story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, Audrey awoke with a renewed sense of focus. The emails had already stirred reactions in her family, but she wasn't done yet. Naomi had suggested something Audrey had initially resisted, a confrontation in person, but under her terms. No emotional manipulation, no sudden guilt trips, just facts, evidence, and boundaries. Audrey spent hours reviewing every bank statement, every email, every text. She highlighted every unauthorized transaction, every false claim, every lie her parents had tried to tell her. By the time she finished, she had built a clear, undeniable case. Naomi glanced at the stack of papers and said with a smirk, "Looks like we're about to show them what organized really means." Audrey nodded, feeling a thrill of empowerment. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about anger. It was about justice. And for the first time, she felt like it was within reach. Audrey agreed to meet her parents at a neutral location, a lawyer's office. They arrived, surprised, but still attempting to control the narrative. Her mother approached first, pleading eyes wide. Honey, please, can't we talk this out? Audrey held up a hand. We can, Mom, but we're going to do it professionally, calmly, without emotion. Her father tried to interject, his voice stern. No yelling, no crying, no dramatics, just facts, Audrey said firmly, cutting him off. Her brother Daniel leaned against the wall, trying to appear casual, but the stiffness in his shoulders betrayed him. Audrey placed the stack of documents on the table. Here is everything, she said. Every transaction, every message, every detail. You can see exactly what you did, and why it's unacceptable. Her mother's lips trembled. Her father's jaw tightened. Daniel's smugness faltered. For the first time, the consequences of their actions were tangible. Not just words, not just guilt, not just threats. Evidence. Audrey continued, voice calm but firm. I'm not asking for permission, forgiveness, or excuses. I'm asking for accountability. She watched as her parents exchanged uneasy glances. For once, they had no defense, no manipulations, no guilt trips. Audrey felt a wave of clarity. This was her power, her life, her boundaries, and she was no longer afraid to enforce them. Daniel attempted to speak, a weak, defensive tone. It's not like we spent your money. The business, it was failing anyway. Audrey shook her head slowly. Doesn't matter. You didn't ask. You didn't tell me. You used my resources without consent. That is the issue. Her mother whispered, Honey, it was for family. Audrey interrupted, calm but decisive. Family does not justify theft. Family does not justify fraud. Family does not mean erasing boundaries. You crossed a line. A hard line. And this is the moment you learn it can't be crossed again. Her father leaned back, silent. Her mother tried to look remorseful. Daniel avoided her gaze completely. Audrey allowed herself a small internal smile. The control had shifted. The power was hers. After the meeting, Audrey felt a strange mix of relief and strength. She had faced them. She had set boundaries. She had made her position crystal clear. Naomi hugged her tightly. You did it, she whispered. You didn't just survive. You took charge. Audrey nodded. Wiping away the last traces of tears she hadn't even realized she'd been holding. I did, she said softly, and I'm not going back. Her journey wasn't over. There were still steps to take, repairs to make, and trust to rebuild. But for the first time, she felt in control of her life. She wasn't the quiet, compliant daughter anymore. She was Audrey. Strong, independent, assertive, unbreakable. And she had the courage to make sure no one ever crossed her again. Over the next few weeks, Audrey carefully monitored the situation. The bank's investigation moved forward, and her family slowly realized the severity of what they had done. Her parents attempted several times to contact her verbally, to sway her with guilt, apologies, or excuses. Each time, Audrey maintained her boundaries. No phone calls. No in-person meetings without structure. Everything documented, everything in writing. She began to feel a new kind of empowerment, one she hadn't experienced before. Every message, every document, every careful step she took reinforced the truth. She was no longer a victim. Her brother Daniel called one evening, not to argue, not to apologize, but to test her. Audrey, he began, voice nervous. I just wanted to see if we could talk. She replied calmly via text. All communication regarding the loan must be in writing. Any other attempts will be ignored. The silence that followed was deafening. For Daniel, this was a first. He couldn't manipulate, guilt, or deflect. Audrey had taken control, and he knew it. Her parents soon followed, sending polite, formal emails instead of emotional messages. Audrey read each one carefully, noting inconsistencies, lies, and admissions of fault. She responded only when necessary, concise, factual, and assertive. She noticed a change in herself. Calm, confident, strategic. The fear, hurt, and anger were still there, but they no longer controlled her. She was no longer reacting. She was directing. Audrey also started thinking about the future. Her finances, her independence, her self-worth. She set up new accounts, diversified her investments, and built a safety net. Naomi remained by her side, guiding and advising, but Audrey made every decision herself. The sense of autonomy was intoxicating. The feeling of reclaiming control, her life, and her dignity. It was empowering beyond words. She began sharing her story selectively, cautiously, to friends she trusted. Not for sympathy, but as a reminder. You can be hurt, betrayed, or manipulated, and still rise stronger. You can set boundaries. You can demand accountability. You can reclaim your life even when the people closest to you fail. Audrey discovered something profound. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity, boundaries, and self-respect. Her family might never fully understand the impact of their actions, but Audrey understood it perfectly. And that was enough. Months later, when all accounts were secured, the bank confirmed that no further withdrawals could occur without Audrey's consent. The loan-related chaos had been contained. Her family had been forced to confront the consequences of their actions, legally, financially, and emotionally. Audrey had done what she set out to do. Not with anger, not with hatred, but with strategy, patience, and intelligence. She realized she had changed fundamentally. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also unearthed a strength she never knew she possessed. And as she sat at her desk, reviewing her finances and documents one last time, she smiled faintly. Not out of triumph over her family, but out of recognition for herself, for the woman she had become. She was no longer bound by fear, guilt, or manipulation. She was free. And this was just the beginning of a life rebuilt on her own terms. Audrey looked at Naomi and said softly, "If you want to see more stories like this, real-life family drama, betrayals, and how ordinary people reclaim their power, make sure you hit subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next." Naomi smiled knowingly. The next story? Even bigger, even more intense. And it's coming soon. Audrey leaned back, closing her laptop. For the first time in months, she felt at peace. She had survived the betrayal, navigated the chaos, and come out stronger. Her story wasn't over, but it was hers. And she would write every chapter with courage, clarity, and control.